there's the dark sides of us that don't work, but they work perfectly for war.
You can love somebody and still beat them up.
Welcome to another episode of Love and War with Dominick Cruz. Today, I'm going to go through all the questions you guys have been kind enough to send in and ask me. We don't know how kind they are, but I'm going to say they're kind. The reason why I wanted to do this was kind of my idea is because I do believe that people have listened to some of my guests and me and maybe have some questions about what me and a guest have talked about, maybe about my stance on certain things that I've stood strong on. I tend to stand very strong in my beliefs and my mindset. And so maybe people have some questions about that. And I like to answer questions of the fans because I think that answering questions of the fans creates clarity for other fans, and it creates clarity for the sport of what the fans are paying attention to and not. So thank you for the time. Thank you for sending in the questions, and I'm going to do my best to answer them. First one we got. Man, saying your guys' ats is going to be the hardest part, I think. At Cat Girl Robin. So I don't know how hard these other ones are going to say. We'll start with that. In your prime, how do you think you'd fare against modern bantamweights? You know, I always take pride in that because it's hard. You know, you're asking the guy how he thinks his style would hold up against, you know, people in the sport now. And I truly believe my style was built for the future. It was built for staying on the top and not losing the belt. And I think that's why I've defended the belt more times than anybody in the division. And I think that's why I kept winning for so long, is because my style that I built was not just to get the win done, but it was to set the bar for what it takes to win for the longest amount of time in the division. And so I wanted to build my style according to how I thought would solve the problems that were coming, not just solve the problem that was right in front of me. And I think my style would do amazing this day and age. I mean, we just watched Merab. I think he's 34 years old. I was watching him when he was coming up. I was champion when he was coming up. And I believe that, you know, he kind of built his style according to a lot of the alpha male guys. And I think I've done really good with a style like that, similar to habits make styles and styles make fights. And when I watch Merab Dvalishvili's habits versus Petr Yan's habits, Yan filled the gap. Now, he said also he was hurt before this fight in this rematch, or in the last fight. He had some injuries. In this one, he was healthy. But if you watch the style of the way Yan fight Merab, that's, you know, is incredible to watch. Perfect striking defense, always kept his hands up, great takedown defense. Merab landed over 20 plus takedowns in their first fight, and he only landed, I think, 2 takedowns in their second fight. That alone is exactly how you beat Merab. It's a style matchup. It's not some unforeseen thing. It's if you stop him from taking you down, you've got to fight on your hands with Merab. You give yourself more chances to connect and create damage, which is what he did to Merab, being Yan. He stuffed the takedowns. He utilized the jab amazingly to start the damage and then follow it up. And by leading with the jab like he did on Merab, you funnel Merab to the single, and then he has answers for the single. He barely gave any double legs to Merab, and those are usually the foolproof takedowns to finish. So by funneling Merab to the single, which is his best takedown, he's able to also land the jab on the way in, and he's able to follow up with the 1-2s and the uppercuts. And as you can see here, the defense was just so good. I mean, he got a couple of these takedowns, and you got to give credit to Merab. But at the end of the day, look at the way he's elbowing the arms there. That hurt Merab. There's just a lot of things he did so well. But I think my style chalks up very well. Stuff the takedowns of Merab, stay on the feet striking, move the feet, land the more shots, and get ahead. He won the decision, Petr Yan. That's how he did it. That's how I won my titles, you know? So I think the difference is, can I be competitive and still be fun to watch? I think that's the question nowadays. It's not just about winning. It's about, can it be entertaining to watch at the same time? And the bantamweight division, that's why it's one of the most explosive, fun divisions in the world to watch, because no matter how you adjust, the level and the pace has to be so high. The techniques have to be so foolproof in every martial art that it's always fun to watch. So yes, I believe my style chalks up amazingly well with anybody in the division right now when I'm, 20 to 30 years old. So let's say about, 10 years ago. I don't think I lost any speed. I don't think I lost any of that stuff as I got older. I think what happened is people had a lot of time to adjust. People had a lot of time to follow the style. And yes, it's not that I got slower, but yeah, each shot's different. The training camps get different. Keeping your body healthy in the training camp. We just talked about Merab going through his 4th training camp in 1 year. I mean, I had many years of that before I got to the UFC and had 3 fights a year and then 2 fights a year. And then what happens is the camps just kind of tear you apart to where you can't do what you did when you were younger because the body just doesn't recover as quickly. So that's, to me, what the big issue was the recovery started to go down as I got older, not really if I was as fast, if I was as strong. And also what also changes is, when you get hit, it's different. When you get hit in the chin as you get older, I don't think I got chinny or anything like that, but it does feel different when you get hit. For instance, in my very last fight, I had a neck injury that happened during the fight. I can't remember almost any fight in my whole career that I get injured in the middle of the fight and feel the injury. Normally, you just kind of numb out. You're so blacked out from the adrenaline, you don't feel it. That was one of the fights. And as I got later in my career, I started to, you could feel like certain things happen and you're adjusting it in the middle of the fight. Like, oh, I think I broke my ankle. Oh, I think I broke my hand. Oh, I definitely herniated some disc in my neck. I can't feel the whole right side of my body. All right, how am I going to deal with this? These are little issues that I started to feel come up as I got older, and those are the things that change. But I wouldn't have fought if I thought I was too slow or not quite as good. My coaches, I counted on them to deal with that, but the recovery and the durability, those are the 2 things that I think change as I've gotten older. But yeah, stylistically, with the style, the way that I fight, I think I could be competitive with everybody in the division in my prime, 100%. CTE Fight Club. I mean, that segued perfectly, did it not? How do you think your legacy would have changed without ACL injuries? So I love this question. Potential fights missed out on battling adversity. What happened? What helped you? Let's start with that. That's the first part of the question. How do you think your legacy would have changed without ACL injuries? And the parentheses is what potential fights did you miss out on to battle through the adversity? I think that, I had a couple fights. I had 1 or 2 other fights besides that I had to pull out of because of injury. And those would have been on my record. I would have had over 30 fights. I think it would have been successful. But to look at how do I think my legacy would have changed without ACL injuries is looking at it from a point of view of like, were the ACL injuries good or bad to this person? CTE Fight Club. I don't know what they think, but for me, I tend to always look at things as the glass is half full because that's the only way to make things work in these situations, the whole turn lemons into lemonade type of situation. Well, when I look at my ACL injuries, it gave me a job in broadcasting. When I hurt my knees, I was hurt for so long. I blew it out, came back, blew it out again, then tore my quad. After I tore my quad, they stripped me of my belt. Then I came back, fought 1 fight, tore my knee again. I mean, that's 3.5 years just sitting out thinking about competing against the best in the world. Well, I would have never gotten all that time to not just analyze fights, analyze the division, make money while I was on the outside, build myself a career in front of the camera while I still continued to train. Having my ACL injuries basically did nothing bad for me. It did everything good for me. Not only did it start me in a career outside of fighting because fighting became the opportunity for that career, but it also had me staying busy. Like most people, you'd think, all right, he gets the ACL injury and then he doesn't continue his career, or he has all these missouts on his career and is battling adversity. I still battled adversity. I still had my career. The only difference is I was on TV talking about other fighters and how great they were until I was happy or healthy enough to come back and beat the guys that I was talking nice about. So I don't feel I lost anything. I think it was pretty crazy that I was able to stay out that long and none of these guys still couldn't get ahead. I've had more injuries than anybody in the mixed martial arts career at all. Like I would say I'm not proud of it, but I'm more injured than anybody. How did I come back and still hold these records and still be the least beat? It's not because I was sitting out, because to come out from sitting out and then come face the best as they've been competing, some would say that's the impossible part. And when I was going through it, that was the impossible part everybody spoke about. Now, once I get past the fact, it's always, how did that hurt your career? Well, first, back then when we were talking about it, that wasn't even how's this going to hurt your career. That was it's impossible to even win through what you've been through. There's no way you're better than TJ Dillashaw. There's no way you're better than these guys. You've been hurt. You've been out. And then I came and win. So it always comes down to the convenience of the timing, I think, for the questions. And when people want to know, how would my legacy have been different? I think that I wouldn't have a job, maybe. I think that maybe I would have kept competing and just been like every other fighter who just showed up and fought. But how many other fighters have been able to show up, fight, give back to the sport at the same time, come back and fight, give back to the sport? I mean, think of any basketball player, think of any football player that gets hurt, they broadcast, and then come back and play football at the highest level. Like they win a Super Bowl after they'd been commentating the entire season, 2 seasons before that. And then they come and they win the Super Bowl the next year. I mean, I did that. This isn't done in sports. This isn't done in baseball. This isn't done in basketball. This isn't done in soccer. Now, let's be honest, mostly because they make enough money, they don't need to work when they get hurt. Well, that wasn't the case for me. I had to work in order to pay my bills because my sponsors left me and I wasn't, fighting to make my paychecks. So that's the other side of the story that changed me and shifted me and turned me into a stronger human being. I would not take back any of my injuries. They made my career because the injuries showed me how good I actually was, that I could be hit with every injury in the book, the worst of the worst, and still win at the top of the game, still be the best in the world, still be ranked pound for pound #1 on that list at one time. So I'm grateful for the things that happened to me. My injuries happened for me, not to me. The other part of that question, what helped you physically and mentally endure everything that went on during that of the injuries and vacating the belts? Well, I pretty much just explained it. What helped me is giving back. I had to shift out of what I didn't have, which was fighting, which was health, which was getting up and running, getting up and walking, just being physically capable. I gave that up. And I chose to give away my mental fight knowledge to the other athletes that were competing, even my opponents, and try to figure out a way to create a win-win. And the way that I created a win-win is I give them a win because I talk about how special and great these other fighters are, and I give me a win because I make a paycheck from Fox or ESPN, and I'm analyzing fights and I'm staying in the game and I'm seeing what it takes to win at the highest level and seeing if I still have it, and I'm making the adjustments in my mind and in my physical therapy to return and beat the best guys in the world. So those are the adjustments that helped me physically and mentally to endure. Was I never really left. I just made the adjustments on the outside while everybody else wrote me off. Third question that we got here. ASI fall business. Do you have any super fights that you wish you would have had? I would have loved to see you versus Jose Aldo. Those are the super fights that matter to me, is going back and righting the wrongs of my decisions in these fights, losing these 4 fights, getting the rematch from these guys would have been super fights to me. Other than that, Jose Aldo's probably the main one that didn't happen. Everyone knows my. That's this at. So weird. The people, you guys write the weirdest stuff for your ads. Everyone knows my asked me, if you were given one last exhibition rodeo, a retired UFC fighter's night, who would you want to face? I would want to rematch Henry Cejudo. I think that we would be a great fight. Respect to him. He was an Olympic gold medalist for that. You have to respect that. I think he was the youngest gold medalist of all time in American history for USA Wrestling. Respect. In fighting, I would definitely take that rematch, and that would make my day. But that didn't happen. He's retired. I'm retired. So we move on. Andrew Loya asked, prime uninjured TJ or Aljo? Who do you got? My favorite fight to watch of yours is Scotty Jorgensen's fight. You had so much youth, and it was insane to watch. Listen, if you guys keep saying how I had so much youth and that I'm like old, if you were in front of me, you wouldn't say that. Relax. I'm not old. And yes, I had a lot of youth. But the fighting is just a momentum sport. And at that time, I had a ton of momentum and I hadn't been injured a lot. So without the injuries, there's not the time off. And while those injuries, I was able to come back and compete, it messed up some of my durability and stuff like that. But the Scott Jorgensen era, when I won the UFC title, I merged the WC and the UFC title. Yeah, I think I was 25 years old. So yeah, I'm just young. And I'm glad that, I had so much youth. That's what being young does, creates youth. I don't know if being 40 makes me more wise, and maybe we could word it that way. You had such little wisdom against Scotty Jorgensen, but tons of youth. We'll go with that. Prime uninjured TJ or Aljo? Who you got? I still take Aljo in that fight. I think Sterling has underrated wrestling. I think he's hard to hit, hard to find, hard to land really hard. The gift that makes Aljo so good that people don't really pay attention to, I think, is he doesn't take a lot of damage because he moves laterally so much, he kicks so much. By the time you go to punch him, he's shooting underneath your punches to get to your legs. The only person that was able to handle that really well was O'Malley. He had a good game plan for that. I think TJ's not quite tall or lengthy enough with his style to stop Aljo from being able to do the grappling that he did. But, I mean, like you said, TJ was hurt. How would it have gone if he wasn't hurt? We'll never know. My boy Little Heathen, Jeremy Stevens, asked me, have you ever got buns? AKA, have you ever clapped cheeks the night before a fight? If so, which fights? And did it affect or enhance the performance? Okay, so this is my boy Jeremy. He liked the Blue Chew ads, so he had to add the Blue Chew in there. And they're pretty hilarious, the Blue Chew ads. I gotta give him credit. And I think what he's trying to say is, have I ever had sex? So that those of you who don't understand ebonics, clap cheeks means had sex. Okay. No, I haven't. Not the night before. Now, that doesn't mean I don't figure out what I got to do to stay calm, but I don't do it with anybody. I'm by myself. You do the math on that, okay? And the reason is I have a real belief system with, not necessarily not releasing, but I have a belief system in not being nice, not being loving, not being kind on the 2 weeks before a fight. And what happened with me is I had my mom show up to a fight. My first fight that I lost, actually, I was 9-0. I was in the WC, and it was my first televised fight. And it just set the tone for me for the rest of my career, this situation where I didn't know that they were planning to do this. Nobody warned me that the camera was going to come up with me, but they came up to my mom's room where I had the UFC or WC had bought I had 2 rooms. I gave one to me and then I gave one to my mom. And I'm 20 years old, about to turn 21 in 3 days. Never been to Vegas really, still can't legally drink. And I go to my mom's room to say, hey mom, all right, see you later. I'm going to the fight. I just didn't piece it together what I was doing. So I go and you just think it's natural. Say bye to my mom, go fight. But when I remember going to her hotel room, she was so scared. My mom was so nervous, so emotional. And I remember feeling giving her a hug and being like, it's okay, mom. Everything's going to be good. Don't be scared. Don't be nervous. And just remember thinking like, it was almost like if I was to go to war and I was saying goodbye to my family before I go to war and maybe go die. It felt like that. And it just put like this weird fear in my heart or in my aura. It took away just that lack of give a fuck that I needed. The not caring about well-being. It almost sobered me back up into real life, to seeing my mom, hugging her, having that grounding of, you know, empathy, love, affection, caring, fear. She didn't do it, but she allowed me to be in those thoughts when I hugged her. And they're watching us on camera, and I just remember hugging her while they're watching us on camera, and they're getting this nice Hallmark moment. I'm like, I'm not here for this shit. Like, why am I here hugging my mom goodbye like I'm going to die? Like, this is weird. And then I hug her, and that's what I remember thinking, because I'm like, I'm not going to die. Nothing bad's going to happen. We're just going to fight. It's going to be fine. And I'm trying to rewrite my brain, but walking from that room, now the camera's on you while you're walking down the hallway. Man, that was the beginning of having a camera in front of my face day one, and it scared the shit out of me. I was not ready for the camera. I was not ready for them to capture that, see my life. I didn't even know the whole thing was going to be filmed. I had never been filmed like one-on-one like that in my entire life, much less my career. I was in smaller shows before that. None of that happened. There was no kind of promotion like that. So no, I learned that day I'll never talk to a woman, and I'll never talk to my mom 2 weeks before a fight, because they allow me to, the women almost pull out the nice parts of me. They pull out the loving parts of me. They pull out the human parts of me. And on those 2 weeks before a fight, I actually enjoy and have enjoyed allowing myself to turn those pieces off and get as dark and as mean and as brutal as I want to be. And it was like a nice, it felt healthy. It felt like I could just like let it out. And I didn't have to feel wrong about it, because I was allowed to go do something that was normally illegal, and everybody was going to cheer me on for it. And so to let go of all that loving stuff, man, I just really enjoyed that about fighting. That was one of my favorite things about going to the gym. That was one of my favorite things about training, is I was allowed to be a mean person, and nobody was going to make me wrong for it. It was actually the right thing to do. And I appreciated that freedom. Nobody was going to be, if you got sensitive about something I said, well, we're fighting anyway, so get over it. If you get sensitive about the way I hit you too hard and we're going light today, well then, let's fight about it. It didn't matter, because at the end of the day, fighting solves it. If you got a problem with me, fight me about it. And if you can't beat me now, we know why you're complaining. That's the actual truth. So I just loved that about fighting, the honesty of it, the allowing myself to be as brutal as I want, allowing myself to be as mean as I want, allowing myself to not have to say sorry about it to anybody. What a gift. What a gift. And it's all gone now. Now I got to pretend with everybody else. Show up to work, listen to this jackass tell you something, and you're just like, yeah, I never saw it that way. Thank you for sharing that. And you just look at them and you keep going about your day thinking in your head, like, man, I would beat the fuck out of you if you were in the gym with me right now. And that's what I actually want to say, but you can't say that. You got to play this weird game where it's like, oh yeah, you're great. So I miss being able to do those things, but at the same time, I get to find a way to be what's missing for other people now. And that's the next step of life, right? This episode is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, and IQ Joe mushroom coffees are the delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel you need to win your day. Now, what I like about the IQ Bar is, one, obviously, anybody who's had a protein bar, you know you need protein bars in the middle of the day. Fills gaps. If you're on the go, if you need a snack so that you don't get low blood sugar or whatever, these can help you. I have hypoglycemia, so these bars will save my day in the middle so the low blood sugar doesn't hit. But I also like the IQ Joe, because obviously I'm a big coffee drinker, and it'll give you a little sharpness. You can mix the IQ Joe with actual coffee, but there is 200 milligrams of natural coffee. I like a lot of caffeine, so I'll mix the Joe with the coffee and make it one big thing. Everything works together. IQ Bar, I highly recommend it, and it's healthy, gluten-free, low sugar, plant-based protein, so you're not filling yourself full of crap. The new year means a clean slate. Time to transform frustration into fuel and power your day with IQ Bar. The Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way to try all IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ Bars, 8 IQ Mix Sticks, and 4 IQ Joe Sticks. And right now, IQ Bar is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text DOM to 64,000. Text DOM to 64,000. That's DOM to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. Guys, enter the room dick first. Blue Chew isn't just a tablet. It's a cheat code for your crotch. Stronger, harder, longer lasting. Like someone gave your downstairs a pep talk and a gym membership. Speaking of gym memberships, Jeremy Heathen Stevens ate a couple of these and now he's got 5 kids. And I'm not talking about over time. He did it overnight. Try a Blue Chew. It does not disappoint. Jack could climb his own stock on one of these beans, so go ahead and add some mass to the main mast. Guys, this isn't just about performance. This is about legacy or third legacy. Give her group chat something to talk about. You know, when you lay it down, they're talking about how it gets up. Nothing makes you more of a legend than a little Blue Chew. Discover your options at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. As always, get your first month of Blue Chew free. Just use promo code DOM at checkout and pay $5 for shipping. That's it. Join Blue Chew's mission to upgrade humanity one thrust at a time. Head to bluechew.com for details and safety info. And big thanks to Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast and giving me a larger shaft. Big shout out to Originals Family Farms. Thanks so much for the support. Without you, the podcast wouldn't have got launched. It wouldn't be going the way it is. Thank you for the support. Thank you for making me part of the family. Big love to you guys. Which injury in your career, other than the shoulder injury that forced you to retire, was the hardest to get through and come back from? Great question. The injury that in my career that was the hardest to get through was definitely my 3 ACLs back to back with a torn quad in between. Like, it's just so, I was just so raw in life that I didn't have any tools to deal with that level of just being lost. You know, fighting had solved, training had solved everything for me. Sport had solved everything for me. So that's why I say that these injuries happened for me, because by taking away the thing that I was so good at, that made me so comfortable, that made me feel like I belonged, taking that away for 3.5 years due to injury made me doubt everything that I was and have to show up for myself and rewrite ways that I could be useful to the world. It reset my whole mindset. And the beautiful part about it is I learned those things were in me whether I tried or not to fight at the highest level. Because when I gave up on it and I said, well, maybe these injuries are going to stop me from ever coming back, I got that came back. My body started getting healthy and I was able to get my body back in shape without even trying. But the things that I did have to try at were take the sport away from me, take me out of the gym, put me at home, put me with regular people, put me in the relationships around me, put me in talking to my mom every day, put me in talking to people at work every day. Without the sport, I realized that was the gap. I couldn't figure that out without being able to compete every day. So when I had that many back-to-back injuries in a row with the belt on my shoulder and holding back the division, and everybody wanted to fight me and I can't, and building the division while I'm still there, while I'm holding the belt but not able to compete for it, that was the hardest. That was the hardest time. Because I just wanted to compete so bad and I couldn't. But it did also turn me into a man. Like, it legitimately turned me into a man, because I had to just focus on so many different things besides what I was good at, which was fighting. Which, again, that's another reason I'm here now doing this work too, because to me, I could retire and return like so many other fighters do. And as going through it myself, I can relate to fighters wanting to return. Because, you know, you miss that thing that you miss that meanness that I was telling you, being allowed to be that. But that's why I'm here too, is because this is a different chapter of learning more about myself. Can I do things that are difficult? This is one of the hardest things in the world to do, is not have fighting and still work and still give back to the world and still find a way to be something that works for the world. So here I am making the adjustments and rolling with the punches without fighting, but still get to be involved in fighting, still get to talk to fight fans, still get to call fights, still get to coach if I want to. So I'm very blessed. But yeah, it's totally different without being in the actual competition pool. And then the 3 knee surgeries, 1, 2, 3, plus the torn quad in between that, those were the hardest injuries. Dan Hardy, MMA, legend in the sport. I saw him fight Carlos Condit. And I mean, those are, again, as a fighter, I look at old fights like that and look at the things that the length of work that Carlos Condit did and the people that Dan Hardy fought, GSP, things like that. And you have to tip your hat to these guys. And I love when they get on and ask me good questions. So thank you, Dan Hardy, for what you did for the sport. What inspired your style of footwork? Were there any old school fighters that you watched coming up that did something similar? There was a couple fighters that I watched. Willie Pep was one from way early in the boxing game. He wrestled before he started boxing. So if you watch guys like Lomachenko, guys like Willie Pep, they both come from a wrestling style first, and then they transition to boxing. And if you watch them, it's not the same, totally different, but we're all similar in the ideas of staying off the center line. And that's because in wrestling, you have to stay out there. If you're staying right on the center line, they're double legging you, they're taking you down. If you can create the angle in wrestling, you get the takedown. So my footwork was inspired by coming from wrestling first. Here's a picture of Willie Pep right here. We can show you. See how these angles he hits and how he moves his head? But he's always hitting weird angles and hard to hit. And I was like, hey, when you have 4-ounce gloves, that's how you want to be moving. You don't want to get hit. You want to pretend you have knives on your hands, because if you get hit with 4-ounce gloves, you're probably getting cut. But look how good he moves his head. And I love his footwork too, because he always had like good angles he would hit, good, weird, strange ways that he would pull you into his punches. And Willie Pep was one. Muhammad Ali, obviously, because of the footwork. I saw as a heavyweight, my mindset was, as a heavyweight, if you get touched one time, you go to sleep. So what was Muhammad Ali focused on? Head movement and footwork. To me, that mentality and that style translates perfectly to mixed martial arts, because with 4-ounce gloves, knees, elbows, and kicks, that makes us all heavyweights to an extent, because there's such limited gear. So you can't afford to take as many shots without getting cut. And then they give the fight on the scorecards away if you don't get knocked out. And you also can't take as many shots with elbows, knees, or kicks. So you have to be very hard to find, very hard to hit. So Muhammad Ali was somebody that was those things. So I said, okay, let me take some fundamentals from him. Let me take some fundamentals from Willie Pep, because the way he slides and pulls you into punches. Let me take some fundamentals from Mayweather, because he's got a really good pull too. Mayweather has a really good pull over the top of the jab. And I knew jabs early on in the game for me were one of the key weapons I was going to have to take away from every fighter right off the bat, was take away their jab in order to take away their striking, because most people find their rhythm and their timing with the jab. And this was in my era of the fighting. But the way that Mayweather can see how you just can punch and punch and punch and you can't hit him. Now, I didn't sit in the pocket the way he does, but he moves his head. So look how much he moves his head, and he makes people miss and lose their balance trying to hit him. That was a big thing for me. I can make people lose their balance, frustrate them, and look how good he moves his feet. You just can't hit this dude. He is impossible to hit. So I didn't do it the way he did it, but the fundamentals are the way that he focused on that was something I wanted to focus on. And that's taking away the jab. That's the pull too that I'm talking about. You wait for the jab, boom, and then you pull, boom, come over the top of it. Mayweather is one of the best in the world at that. That pull too, I knew that one was going to be key in mixed martial arts, because you got to take away the jab and then you can slowly take away their timing and their rhythm. So all these little fighters, definitely Hardy. Great question. Thank you for it. The fundamentals, the mindset, the fighter IQ that these guys used, I wanted to take, and I believed it transitioned really well to mixed martial arts because of the way they moved their feet, because of the way they were hard to hit, because of the way they used their speed. And those are the things those are the people that I watched that helped me piece together my style, mixed with jumping a lot of rope and just visualizing. I cannot stress enough how important it is to shadow box because of the creation parts of it. You're literally facing a shadow that you're picturing in front of you, throwing weapons at you, and how you move your feet and how you move your head is according to the creation that you put in front of you. And so be creative. I always put on music and let myself be as creative and have as much fun as I could with the shadow boxing, because that's the blank slate where your style can exist. What is an accomplishment or something you're proud of now in retirement that you may have undervalued or not seen as a big deal while you were actively fighting? P.S. Big fan of the Jason Miller episode. Hope you have him back. Yeah, Jason Miller was nice. I was shocked how wise this guy is. He always comes off as such a goofball. Don't let him trick you. That guy is wise. He's been through so much hell. You can't help but have so much knowledge and life experience through that. So tip my hat to Jason Miller. As crazy as he tries to come off, don't let him trick you. This guy's smarter than he looks. I promise. Smarter than he pretends. I should say. But to answer your question, Brandon Woodring asked me, what is an accomplishment or something you're proud of now in your retirement that you may have undervalued or not seen as a big deal while you were actively fighting? Definitely every one of my records and wins coming off of the injuries the way I did. When you're going through it, it's just written off by everybody as impossible. And I had nobody to lean on. I didn't have somebody that had done what I was trying to do, which was, like I said, three knee surgeries and a torn quad. I had nobody in foot. I wouldn't say nobody. Very small amount. Derrick Rose, Adrian Peterson are two people I kind of leaned on, and I tried to look for other athletes that have been through the extent of knee injuries that I had. And it was hard to find. GSP had a knee surgery too, but it wasn't quite as many times, and it wasn't quite as bad as mine. So those basketball and football players were it. And the reason why I looked to them is because they were having to come back from the surgery at the highest level of sport. Derrick Rose was one of them, and Adrian Peterson did it better than Derrick Rose, but both those guys came back at the highest level of sport and still competed. Adrian Peterson did it in crazy fashion. He came back in like 6 months and then won some rushing record. Absolute freak of nature. Just going to tell you, that guy's a freak. I was watching him going, okay, not only can I do this, but I might be able to, I need to maybe speed this up watching Adrian Peterson. But I couldn't. I stuck to the 9-month guideline because fighting's a little different than football. But, man, now when it's talked about what I did, I believe sometimes people look at it as, oh, it was easier for him to do what he did because of the injuries and he had time out. But when I was going through it, everybody said how it was impossible to do what I did with the time I had been out while everybody was competing. So it's, for me as a champion that's been through the ups and downs of the sport, having the belt, having it take, losing it, having the belt again, losing it, you start to see how the questions and the mentality of human beings really like to fit and cater to the narrative. And my job always, as I've seen it, is, oh, this is why I have a job. This is why this is happening for me and not to me. These knee injuries is to show the world what they're capable of. How many times have you heard somebody say, oh, I rolled my ankle in high school and I just quit playing football after that, or I hurt my hand and I just quit after that? I mean, I taught myself that was all made up stories that these people made. None of that shit was true. You could have came back if you wanted to. Anybody can. And the gift that I got to be to myself and everybody else is all the things that you say is impossible is not. I'm going to be the first to ever do this. I'm going to do it at the highest level. I'm going to be the first to call color commentary while I prepare for these fights, while I heal from the injury, and then come back and win the title again. And then after you do it, everybody goes, oh, they make excuses for it. So it's just funny. The narrative is what wins, and people want to believe what they want to believe. But I can tell you right now, everybody said that everything that I ever did was impossible, and I went and did it. So I'm proud of myself for that. Because first, before they said that it was easy, now, back then it was impossible. And I'll never forget that. I'll be the one to remember that. NY-La. No idea. What's the hardest shot you've ever taken in a fight or in a sparring match? And who was it? Well, there's a guy named Ed Ratcliffe, 9mm, and was his nickname. And he was a 155er, and I trained with him probably the whole early part of my career. And he was fighting in the WEC at this time, and he was walking around about 185 pounds, cutting down to 155. I was walking around about 158 pounds, dropping down to 135. This is him right here. Always going to be one of my best friends in the world. Absolute savage on the feet. He had really nasty karate, super good boxing, and extremely fast hands. And then the fact that he was and he always hit angles. We had a very similar style. And the fact that he could always, be bigger than me made it really hard. I had a hard time taking him down because of that. And as you can see, he's fast. So he's not an easy guy to get a hold of. Well, he kicked me a couple times in the head in practice. I mean, he does the most crazy shit. I'm telling you, he was awesome. But that inside kick right there, right? The way he blasted Cerrone's leg out on that inside kick, he did that to me in practice one time. Inside kick, he threw the inside kick and then the right high kick to follow. And it knocked me out in practice 2 weeks before I fought Joseph Benavidez. And I remember getting knocked out and opening my eyes in practice and going, what are you getting me with? And when they told me, it was worse because it was such a sick knockout he hit me with. But, I learned a lot from this dude. I got my shit together. I was pretty pissed off about getting dropped, but I had a fight in 2 weeks, so I had to let it go, have a short memory, and get back on the horse. So that day I went on a jog, and I'll never forget. I was so mad at getting knocked out that I was like, put me back in. And my coach is like, dude, we can't put you back in, bro. That's brain damage. You're done. Go home. And oh my God, it was like 2 rounds in. So I had so much, and I was just so pissed off. And I had nowhere to put it because I just had to go home and rest, right? I was so mad at my coach. I was so mad at myself. I just took off and I ran. I had my boxing gloves on, everything, and I started running. I threw my gloves off right before I get out of the gym. And all of a sudden I look up and I'm still running, but I'm obviously knocked down. Don't know. I've veered halfway through the street. I'm in the middle of the road running and I'm knocked out. I shouldn't be here. I should have listened to my coach. So I stopped in the middle of the road because you just daze off. I was just running, thinking about the fight, and I veered into the road and wasn't paying attention, knocked out on my feet. I got hit pretty hard that day. And I've been dropped too many times to count in practice that with big punches, kicks. Ed's done that to me a couple times. And that's not the day that matters. It's part of it. It doesn't matter. You get to say, okay, that means I'm training with the real ones. This means I'm really testing myself. This means I'm really preparing myself against the hardest opponents possible. So short memory, put that away. The guy you're fighting isn't going to be this. Get in there and do your job. Went in there and won my fight. So thanks, Ed, for just the hard rounds. Jeremy Stevens is up there with the hard rounds that I had to spar with too. But there's been a lot of guys that have hit me very hard that I've had to work through. But that's the one in practice that stand out the most, for sure. As a longtime fighter, what are some of the biggest assumptions people have about you in your personal life? I would love to hear what your guys' assumptions are about me and my personal life. I think that's what this is all about. I have no idea. And let me tell you, I don't want to know. I don't want to try to assume what people assume about me. I just don't want to know. That's the one thing I try to put away and not think about. So you let me know. What are your assumptions? Or what do you think the assumptions that people have about me in my personal life are? I'm really curious. I think that's Nyla that asked me that. I'll be willing to answer that question later if you wanna tell me what the assumptions of the world are about me. Please enlighten me. No? Am I wrong? How would I know that? Do you know what people think about you in your life? Do you want to know?
Don't want to know.
Don't want to know. But you can ask me, Nyla. Or I should say you could tell me. How bad do leg kicks really hurt? Start with that. Level 10, depending on where you get hit, how you get hit. The worst. What's hard about it is your brain, when you get kicked in the leg, tells you don't be weak, you're going to be okay. The problem is your leg tells your brain, I can't walk. So you're just like, sit still, freeze. And it hurts very bad. And the way that it affects your fight is, well, all right, I can't eat very many more of those. So once you get kicked once, it changes. You're no longer thinking about what you're doing to the other person. You're now somewhat in the mindset, if you're not really good at fighting and in the mental games. Now you're thinking of, okay, how do I stop him from doing that again? So it gets you off your game plan. It throws you off what you're doing to the person and puts you into what they're doing to you and how to stop them from doing that to you again. And now you're on the back foot and now they can get their game plan going. So that's how it affects the fight. And who has the best leg kicks in the game? You got to look back at the Jose Aldo versus Uriah Faber fight, and you have to give respect to that particular performance because he literally kicked the leg off of Uriah Faber. Now, Faber toughed it out because he's a tough one. He's a strong guy. But, man, his leg was just like as black as this tablecloth at the end of the fight. It was terrible. He kicked him so much. This to me is the best leg kick performance of anybody. Now, a lot of people have been finished with leg kicks, don't get me wrong, and dropped. But the reason why this is the best performance is because he just kept eating them. Like, Faber made it the best leg performance because he stayed on his feet for the whole fight. But when you see, like, he eats shots in this fight. And this is when Aldo was, to me, peak Aldo. He's the fastest. His takedown defense is perfect. He's strong. This is when I could have been fighting him. Possibly the super fight could have happened. But look, those kicks right there, you see how he turned? Those are the ones you don't want to eat. When you turn and you eat it on the outside, those are the bad ones. The ones where your knee's pointing towards the kick, see how he kind of leans in? No good. And he eats them well. He makes it look like it's no big deal, but he's thinking about that right now. You see how he lifts his leg? Do you see how he lifts his leg and then drops it back down? That's an example of what I'm saying. Like, he's now waiting on Aldo. Aldo got him to throw that right hand. He didn't want to throw that right hand. So this is what leg kicks do to you. Now he's thinking, see how he's backing up and he's trying to, you see that little hop? As a fighter, we know he's testing his leg. He's trying to see, and it's done. Look, it's over. So what was that? 3 kicks? That's how it changes the fight. Now it's basically having a flat tire trying to go on a long distance drive. You boop, 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 boop. You could keep driving, but the tire is about to fall off. That's the best way to put it. So yeah, kudos to Faber for finishing the fight after this brutal leg kick lesson on leg. Look, so bad. But yeah, after this, what's weird is Aldo never really went back to leg kicks like that ever again after that fight. It was weird. It's like something happened. I don't know what changed, but that was, to me, one of the best leg kick performances. But we've seen Barbosa finish people with kicks. I've seen a lot of people finish people with kicks. Aljemain asked, if possible, can you get Garbrandt on the pod next? I'm trying, and I got to get Holdsworth on too, because both Cody Garbrandt and Holdsworth told me they have a completely different story to be told from what TJ said. And Faber also said that, but we already had Faber on. But then we had TJ after Faber. And then the thing I wanted to do was, I kind of had them all, when I was fighting them, I made sure that they all fought each other because they were all a unit. And I needed them to fight each other because why join them if you could beat them? And that was always my mentality. I'm here doing my thing. They're all working together. Faber's managing all of them, making money off of them while he coaches them at his gym. And I was like, that is a conflict of interest. I'm going to make them all hate each other. And that was my goal. And it was fun. But Holdsworth and Cody kind of had their issues with TJ. And so it was easy for me to say, hey, TJ, anytime you talk to TJ, he would be happy to tell me how badly he beat the shit out of everybody in the gym. And I'm just like, dude, these are your teammates. So it was like, You make it too easy. You're trashing your teammates to me because you want to tell me how bad you're going to beat me, but you're trashing your teammates. So he ended up doing that with Cody on Holdsworth. And I wanted to get their perspective of the whole situation, of their whole gym life. There was a lot of drama going on. If you were watching the sport at this time when I was in the rivalry with these guys, there was a lot of drama that went on. And so, yes, I would love to get Garbrandt on. I would love to get Holdsworth on, hear their perspective, the TJ situation, how that went down, you know, the whole snake in the grass thing, how they saw the story. We got TJ's side of the story. We got Faber saying his side of the story a little bit. Now we could get Cody and Holdsworth, and kind of everybody can piece together the story how they want to now that the whole competition phase is over. So yes, that's the goal. We're going to get it all together. At Goldwold asked me, Dom, how important is it to invest in going to the body? Yeah, right now I've invested a little too much in going to the body. Let me tell you, because retirement's gotten me a little bit of a flat tire, but I'm working through it. Now that's outside of fighting, but in fighting, I think it's one of the most underutilized weapons in the game. But as you move up the fight card, when you watch fights, you see how high level it is to use body work. Petr Yan is a great example. He shut down Merab by going to the body. He kicked him multiple times in the liver, which took away the cardio that is his weapon. It got him backing up and off the gas pedal for a little while. And that's what it's good for. Not to mention, with TJ, a big goal of mine was to punch his chest because he comes down the center line so much. And now when you try to kick or come with any round circular motion in the fight and you punch the chest, the balance is off. So that's chest, the stomach, the body. I mean, see that kick right there? That's just body work. That's usually you go to the head, but going to the body, look, it's got him on his back foot. And now Petr Yan has momentum. And he can breathe and he can be calm and he can, you know, he forced that takedown to happen with pressure and by hurting Merab. So he's in control. Body work, essential. And like I was going to say, on the under part of the card, you don't see a lot of body work, generally speaking, because it's a very high level mindset to attack the body. Like you got to be usually top 5. As you get to the top of the fight card, those are usually the highest level fighters on the card, generally speaking, and you see a lot more body work get built into the style. And lastly, the reason why body work is so important is they always tell you in boxing 101, attack the body, the hands will drop, and that sets up the finish as the fight moves on. So if you put in dividends and you put in, you know, money and timing into the body, you invest into the body, it brings the defense down to protect the body so that they can breathe. And let me tell you, when you get hit in the body, you would rather breathe and give up shots to the head. So they start giving up shots to the head, and now you can concuss them. So first, take away the air, take away the body, take away the toughness, take away the heart by attacking the body, and then they'll give you the mind. They'll let you blast it right off their shoulders for free. Jackson Stevenson 9708 asked, what did you do to calm the nerves before the fight? I warmed up forever. I had a long warm up. Anybody who watched me early in my career knew I warmed up for 2 hours. I just didn't stop because the way I looked at it is I was in such good shape. I could do 3 fights before every fight. You know, everybody talks about Merab using cardio as a weapon. I used cardio as a weapon. Cain Velasquez used cardio as a weapon. A lot of guys use cardio as a weapon. I was that guy too. And so I was in incredible shape that I could warm up the entire 2 hours before the fight and walk out there completely soaking wet with sweat and go beat the hell out of somebody. And that's how I felt the best. And besides that, my wrestling coach always told me he would check us before we stepped on the mat. If we didn't have sweat before we stepped on the mat, we had an extra workout after the match. So you learn that if you're not going in sweating like you already had a match before the match, you're going to be a step behind. And so that was always my mentality. So I always warmed up extra long. Anytime I was nervous, I got up and I hit pads or I shadow boxed. And that takes away the nerves. It just locks you into what you can control, and that's being ready. rrstreetrat.inc. He asked me, or he or she, I don't know, who is your Mount Rushmore of MMA and why? Man, top 5 fighters of MMA, right? I would say John Jones. I would say Chuck Liddell. I would say Khabib, GSP. Well, Anderson Silva's up there too. Come on. But that's hard. That's a hard question because you can go back 20 years. You can go forward. It's so hard. But that's the best I could do off the top of my head for you. Nora asked me, where's the best carne asada? Man, Sonora in Tucson, Arizona. That's where I grew up. I was born in San Diego. And then at 2 years old, my family was super broke. So we moved back to Tucson, Arizona, and I was raised there until I was 20 years old and then moved back to San Diego at 20, and now I've been back in San Diego another 20. So I spent half my life in Tucson, did all my elementary school and all my high school and junior high in Tucson, and then I moved back to San Diego. And I got to tell you, Mexican food in Tucson, Arizona is way better than it is in California. It's not even close. So I'm sorry, all of you who disagree with me, go to Tucson, try the food there. Now, I'm not saying go to Tucson to enjoy Tucson, okay? I'm saying, because nothing beats being in California. I'm saying go there for the food, okay? And then come back to California, because the desert's a hard place to live, and you might get the shit beat out of you in front of a Circle K in Tucson. So watch out. Rowdy Beck asked me, who's your favorite Australian? And don't you dare say Ross Pearson. Okay, so this is the deal. Rowdy Beck is in Bare Knuckle. She's nasty. First, she was in the UFC, then transitioned to bare knuckle afterwards. But she is as tough as they come. She's one of these ones. You know, the girls, I think, are some of the hardest bare knuckle fights to watch because a lot of times they don't knock each other out, let's be honest. They don't got quite enough power all the time to knock each other out at that weight class. So what do? They commence to slice each other's faces into an absolute disaster. And that's how these girls fight, because they eat the shot and it just slices them right open. And they can just keep taking, their brains can take the shots, but their face can't. And look, uppercuts. Look how she grabs back and they just connect so much with how much, look how many shots they're eating. Both of them, they're eating every one of these shots. they're not missing. So this is like, to me, bare knuckle for the women is it's fun to watch because they connect so much. They show how tough they truly are, how much heart they have, how much soul they have. She's an Australian. She's from Australia. She's born and raised in Australia. And she got to train with us here in California for many years to prepare for the UFC when she had her visa. And love Rowdy. And Beck Rawlings. Tune in. She'll be scrapping again in no time. Make sure if you haven't watched her, watch Beck Rawlings scrap. She's Australian. Come on. We got to say you're my favorite Australian. But Ross Pearson is actually from England. And he transitioned and moved over to Australia because he married his ring girl Australian wife, Christy Pearson, now. And she's in the UFC, so tune into her. And if you ever want to watch somebody get lost walking in circles, watch Christy Pearson circle the octagon. And Ross gives her direction now. So you got to give it to Ross. And you know, guys, that pretty much does it. We got through 20 questions, the top 20 questions I can answer. We're going to be back again. Hit me with more questions. I appreciate them. And if I didn't answer any of these questions to your liking, I'm sorry. We'll be back again. Re-ask your questions. Just ask them better. I blame you for it.